Thanks for having me, Kim. One thing I do want to say before I get started is that you guys complain about how you have to explain affect control theory. Try explaining it to a room full of computer scientists. So this is an actual slide that I put up almost every time, so that people know when I say identity, it's not a matrix with ones on the diagonal, but it talks about people. And so you get to have fun conversations like why social theory, and rarely even get to why affect control theory specifically. This is a lot of fun for me because I don't have to explain it. I think what I do have to explain is what I mean by the identity labeling problem. So the definition here is given an individual in a particular situation. Can we predict how she's going to be labeled? With discussions with Lynn, I think this is sort of really close to this more sociological idea of definition of situation. I think you guys will sort of see that play out. But the reason I define it like this is because how I originally got interested in affect control theory was I look at text data, and what I was really interested in was I had a big data set of tweets from Ferguson, and I was saying, how do we understand why someone chooses to label this person here that they're talking about in this tweet as a young man as opposed to something else, right? A black man, a black child, etc., right? And so that's really where I started to say, who knows how to do this type of thing, and how can I leverage that? Right? So you'll see also today that I've sort of expanded beyond text to look at these sort of multiple choice questions, right? So here I'm saying, who would you say is most likely to be seen with an archbishop? And I give you a bunch of answers, and as a computer scientist, what I want to do is predict, right? So I want to predict that you're going to put young man here. If I sort of remove it from this, the blank, I want to predict your answers to these questions, right? And so I can use computer science methods. So I can put everything into 100 million dimensions and have 6 billion parameters and optimize the function. But the problem is that I can't explain what's happening sociologically, and it's not parsimonious. And so that's what I was looking for, and that's what I came across with affect control theory. But the problem is that affect control theory really isn't that predictive when you put it into these sorts of situations, right? So affect explains some of the information, but not all of it, right? And so you're going to see a lot of overlap here with what Chelsea talked about. I think I'm coming at it from a slightly different angle, but very similar ideas, right? And so there's this broad identity labeling problem. I started to think about it in terms of text, but really in the affect control sense, sort of traditionally, we see this pop up in two ways, right? So I have an actor and a behavior. I want to fill in the label for the object, or I have a behavior and an object. I want to fill in the label for the actor, or in relabeling, right? This makes no sense to me, so I want to relabel the teacher, right? And the way we do that is with affective meaning, right? So deflection is some function of affective meaning, and I think this makes a lot of sense. Oops. I think this, right, so this makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways, but I'm going to point out one paragraph. So this paper won awards. I haven't, so this is not me picking on a paper, and I'm taking this way out of context, so I hope Kim and Jesse and Tobias, who's around, will understand, right? But it says here that agents have developed this shared agreement that one is an executioner and one is a great-grandmother. And I think if I saw someone standing in a corner who looked like a great-grandmother, the odds of me labeling the person next to them as an executioner are pretty small, right? And our sort of reasoning why is that there's sort of institutional structures, right? So the way that we talk about this is we say, okay, I have teacher advises blank. I have a bunch of different options. Teachers are sort of within this school institution, academic institution. So I can cross out one of these things that doesn't make sense, and from there I use affective meaning to sort of whittle it down further, right? But I think that there's sort of three problems with this model, right? So the first is, I think as Kim said, we sort of only have a very heavy-handed way of dealing with this, right? We don't actually have any math to sort of go from teacher advises blank to ruling out cousin, right? We just sort of say, like, we know that that's going to happen, right? And I think that's something that Chelsea brought up really well 15 minutes ago. The second thing is that something that I don't think Chelsea touched on as much, but that I think has been really important for my predictive work is that it's not just institutions, right? So within the sports institution, player and coach are a role pair. So when I think player, I think coach. I don't think announcer quite as often, right? So there's these distinctions within institutions that I think are sort of pushed away for sort of this more broader perspective that I think are necessary, again, for prediction. Finally, and this is the one that I'm going to talk about a bit more today, that I don't always think that these steps sort of happen. And so the most recent stuff that we've happened in the order that we've specified. Right, so I'm going to show examples here. John and I are working on the survey. We've run it for 20 people, so these results are not final, right? But the results I'm going to show you here are unanimous. Okay, so 20 to 0. That's a pretty big difference, right? Okay, so here's the first question. You see a doctor assisting someone else. Who is that someone else most likely to be? Patient, right? Doctor's a patient. That's a role pair. Okay. Now I say you see a doctor punching someone else. Patient, trespasser. Unanimously, people pick trespasser, right? So here, the affective information sort of is sort of not as important as the institutional information. So step 1, step 2. Here, we sort of bypass this institutional step because the affective information is so important, right? And so what I'm arguing here is that we should be thinking about deflection itself as a function of this affective meaning, what I'm calling semantic associations, right? So this is sort of beyond institutions. This is a pairwise function, which one way to represent that is a network, right, of how sort of tied two identities are. And so again, Chelsea talked about this in the context of behaviors. I really haven't done anything with tying behaviors in, and I know Heise and McKinnon really tied behaviors into institutions, but for now, I'm just sort of making this a general statement, and that's what are embedded in that network, which I'll show sort of in higher depth in a second here. So what I'm saying again, deflection is a function of affect and institutions, if you want, or in my view, semantic association. Okay, so I've done some work trying to estimate these semantic associations and affective meanings from text. So that's my background again, text mining. Right. So here's an actual sort of network. Color is evaluative dimension. The lines are things that are strongly semantically associated. I'm not going to get into how I measured this, but you can kind of see, right, that there are separate institutions, right? And within them, identities have positions in these networks. And so we can start to think about, say, what are the roles that these different identities are playing within these networks, okay? So that's sort of an aside about how I want to measure these different meanings. The second piece is, what does that F look like? And I have no idea. I know, right, so here's a graph, fake graph. Over there is low affective deflection, so things that make more sense affectively, things that make more sense semantically. Up here, when things make a lot of sense semantically, again, this is what Chelsea said, affect really doesn't matter. I think where I differ slightly is that I do think that there's this case down here where semantics don't actually matter. When affect tells you a lot, the institutional meanings don't matter, right? So this is sort of a nonlinear function, right? And then in here is where all sorts of interesting stuff might happen. Okay, so I should have started a timer. Oh, I have a timer. Okay. All right, we're good. Okay, cool. So I also want to touch on this point that I don't think it's necessarily just associations and similarity. Associations and affect. It's also another dimension of this meaning, which I think people have called structure here today. I'm going to refer to as semantic similarity, which I'll talk about in a second. But again, I'm going to show another set of these questions to sort of set this up, right? So here, you see someone attacking an enemy. Who is that someone most likely to be? A bully, right? Again, unanimously. Now you see Ethel attacking an enemy. Who is Ethel most likely to be? Unanimously, again, out of these 20 respondents, I'm entering a grandmother, right? So here, affectively, bully is the right answer, but we've provided sort of more information about the actor. and now we're giving them a separate identity, right? And so the sort of distinction that I'm making here, right? These are not affective meanings; these are sort of semantic meanings, and there are sort of two views, at least in the computational linguistics literature, on this. Semantic association is when two concepts, when I think of one, I think of the other, right? So brother and sister, semantically associated. Brother and man are not. Okay? Semantic similarity is sort of almost the opposite, right? So when I think of a brother, I think of what that brother is. And so affective meaning really plays a strong role here. And this ties into a lot of what John was talking about, how the affective dimensions mix with things like gender. Sort of, I don't think I've quite worked out yet how semantic similarity and affective meaning sort of tie into each other. But in any case, right, brother and sister, when we think of a brother is not a sister, a brother is a man, right? And so what I'm arguing here is that deflection, I think, is sort of a function of affective meanings and semantic association and semantic similarity. And so again, how F is defined, I'm not sure, right? So now we're getting into really many parameter land, right? We have enough as it is with ABO and EPA. How we bring in these other dimensions, I'm not sure. Another point that I'll bring up is that I've been trying to estimate semantic similarity using these survey questions for a while. And as Lynn will tell you from my dissertation, I haven't quite gotten it down yet, right? So it's really hard to do this when you want to be a computer scientist and say, let's not make that many assumptions, right? So if I fix woman and sister and lady and girl as sort of the women identities, and then fix all these identities as the men identities, I can sort of infer a lot more information about other identities like white and nigger and lawyer. But as a computer scientist, I want to see it just work. I don't want to have to tell it these things. And then there's sort of more a conceptual or theoretical question of like, what really should I be telling the model? And so I hope to talk more with you guys about that. But in general, sort of the point is really, I think about deflection as sort of this really strong and important theoretically grounded way to make the predictions that I'm interested in. But to do that, I feel like I need all three of these concepts. Okay, so just to recap, there's this sort of broad identity labeling problem that I'm interested in. That I think relates really well to definition of situation. I think deflection is sort of my tool to do that. But how to do that, I'm still working out, right? And also how it relates to all this other exciting stuff that I've heard about this week. This was the last one that I put in before I put these slides up, but there's others. I think it's really interesting. So some papers, and that's it. Thanks.